Everybody, welcome back to another video. This is a video on how I would make a Daredevil game. Now, I was partially inspired by TroyBoy17 with his video, but I think I disagree with some things with him, so I kind of wanted to show how I would make it as a fan of the character, and I was partially inspired by the Netflix series, and I was rewatching that, so I felt a little bit more inspired to make this video on how I would make a Daredevil video game. When it comes to the character of Matt Murdock, or Daredevil, I always enjoyed that character. Reading him and watching a lot of Marvel stuff growing up, it was always a treat to see him. And after watching Netflix series, there's so much potential to see a Daredevil video game truly come to life. In the same spirit as Insomniac's Spider-Man, but with a darker flair, which is what I hope Wolverine will be, but that's a topic for another day. But regardless, the character of Daredevil is so versatile, and there's so much you can do with it. And I would hope a AAA Daredevil game could really capture that scope. From his combat, to his traversal, to everything in between, I honestly think there's so much you can do with it, especially reading the comics and getting a sense of like the way he moves, his acrobatic nature, and the almost trapeze nature of him. I feel like capturing that from Marvel's Spider-Man, but a little different and tweaking it, and even taking elements from the very old school comics with Daredevil would really be more interesting, especially on a story front, because he's a lawyer and also he's a vigilante. And capturing his brutal nature when he fights is something the game has to do. For the setting, transitioning it out of the cityscape of New York would be the first thing I would do. As for the villain, the Hand. It's pretty much the League of Assassins for Daredevil, and this game, they would pretty much function as that. The League of Assassins / Court of Owls. It would be very interesting to see that style. But I would especially use them to transition the setting away from New York to Japan or even Tokyo. Especially Tokyo. With the Hand being the bad guys of the game, Tokyo would be perfect. Basically being a city similar to New York, and it would transition the setting to where you're not stuck in New York. Plus, with the Hand being this game's bad guy, Tokyo would work perfectly being its cityscape, and especially their roots in Japan and Tokyo. Plus, it changes things from New York. With the health system, it would be similar to Arkham, but you would have a sound bar or something like that, where you can tell what noise you're making, or basically have like, a quiet, it's hard to explain, but a hearing-based stealth vision similar to the detective vision in Arkham and The Last of Us hearing vision would be interesting to where you know where enemies are and stuff like that. Keeping the very brutal nature of the Netflix series with fighting and stealth would be amazingly perfect for this version of the game and my vision of it, because we can get really brutal, especially when it comes to the Hand. And even having familiar characters like the Punisher, or even villains like Bullseye or any other villains that Daredevil has show up in the game as cameos or stuff like that, it would be perfect. You can even do something similar to Arkham Origins, where there are assassins that are hired by the Hand to take out Daredevil, all that. Plus, when it comes to combat, I could see it playing out very similar to Marvel's Spider-Man with the acrobatic side of it, but also having the ability to, like Sifu, have a bit of Arkham flair to it, where it's like redirection, brutal martial arts combat, because Daredevil has a bit of both, boxing and martial arts. But you can also do something similar to Ghost of Tsushima, where you have different styles, so you can kind of switch between them of how you could fight, and you have different enemies that are based in that. With traversal, you can even grind on wires, trapeze through, like, around the city, obviously, because, like, Daredevil is very acrobatic, and it would work perfectly for his character to go around Tokyo, and, like, even with enemies, the way he would have to fight them, using like your fighting style of acrobatic nature and mixing in that Spider-Man flair when it comes down to it, it would be perfect. When it comes to that traversal, I feel his acrobatic nature would come in heavily, being able to swing through the city with the batons, but also Tokyo is a very big city, and similar to New York, it has a lot of ways you could probably traverse it if you're Daredevil and you're very acrobatic. Jumping around the city, grinding on stuff, sliding around, sliding down signs, flipping around, it would be perfect. It's a better setting than just giving us a partial bit of Hell's Kitchen and that's it. With Marvel Spider-Man having full New York, I feel like giving Daredevil a complete new setting would work, especially with the bad guys if the story was written well. We can also have boss fights with Bullseye and a few iconic Daredevil villains and some iconic characters returning like Paige and Foggy and all that. But these are just some of my ideas of how I would make a Daredevil video game. Let me know some of yours in the comments down below, and let me know what you think of this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry if it's on the shorter side, but hey, what can you do? Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, all that jazz. It really helps me out, and peace out. Bye-bye.